Greetings, my peeps, and welcome to the All Things Basketball Podcast with your boy GD. In this episode, I will be doing my NBA free agency, everything that's happened in the Eastern Conference up until the date of July 6th, which is today. So I'll give you all the player movement, trade, free agency, all that good stuff. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Okay, guys, it's your boy GD back with the All Things Basketball with GD podcast. And guys, the last time you heard from me, I was talking about the major trades that went on. We'll rehash that as well as we go through the teams. But pretty much we'll be going through all the player movement as promised. So without any further delay, because this 15 teams here, let's get right into it. Just as a side to let you know, we'll do this in alphabetical order, and we'll go through each of the teams. Like I said, all 15 in the East, and then a separate episode of all 15 in the West. So we will start with the Atlanta Hawks. Now, the Atlanta Hawks, we know they flamed out in that first round in the playoffs against the Knicks. As far as free agency goes, Jonathan Kuminga, he opted out of the deal that he had, and that was for this year at $24.3 million. Only problem is, as of this date, he hasn't found any takers. So, and the money's starting to dry up. All the player movement is just about over and done with. You do have some restricted free agents that's out there. So there's still things to be accomplished as far as that goes. But for the most part, and more notably when I talk about restricted free agents, the buzz that's happening around Jalen Duren and Peyton Watson. But nonetheless, Jonathan Kuminga waiting for a deal. Will there be one for him when the dust is settled? We'll see. So there's that. CJ McCollum. Now, guys, he got a 1-year extension at $21 million. And in that contract is a trade kicker. So let's say things don't go so well in Atlanta and they have to move him. He'll have a trade kicker. I believe it's a 15% trade kicker. So whatever he's getting, he'll get money added on top of that. So CJ McCollum, here for this year, but we'll see where they are when the dust settles right around the trade deadline, I would think, right around that time. Jock Landale, he has a 1-year, $14 million deal that he accepted. So Jock Landale, who came over in a mid-season deal and played well for them. He can play the 4 or the 5. So he would be the backup to a WNBA, Becca Kongwu. So he's on a 1-year deal. And then also remember, guys, they made trades. They made trades for Aaron Wiggins. Also, Devin Carter got both of those guys in trades. So you fortify your bench with these additions. And along with the fact that they have Jalen Johnson in the fold, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who ended up being most improved player, and like I said, a Kongwu. And then remember too, guys, you have draft help coming in. You have draft help in the likes of a Kingston Flemings. You have a rookie guard coming in, Zube Aguilafor. You have him as well, Henry Vassir. We'll see how he works out the stretch five. So Atlanta loading up and gearing up as well. So we'll see how Quinn Snyder makes this all work, but he has good pieces here. So can he have his team elevate past the first round for next season? All right, so let us continue. The Boston Celtics. And folks, we know the turmoil that they've gone through in dealing Jaylen Brown. Just a few asides before I put a bow on that. Because you have the eggheads, the analytic guys have the nerve to say that Derek White had a better year than Jaylen Brown. I mean, you got to be an absolute nut to think that's the case. But that's what they're trying to sell you on. But the eye test tells you all you need to know and how well Jaylen Brown did for them. And then another thing before I put the wraps on that, I hear people talking now, mainly Rob Parker, saying how he was just malcontent over there. Here's the thing, though. If he's such a malcontent, how come they ended up with the second seed in the East? A malcontent basically wrecks your locker room and your team isn't doing all that great. He's no dummy by any stretch. He's as smart as a whip guy. And they just want to have this smear campaign about him. But you know this guy has been on the up and up, and how he was dealt with on the way out of Boston is wrong. So I'm going to leave it there at that. Now, in terms of Boston moves, they dealt a blow to the Knicks, that's for sure, by signing Mitchell Robinson, guys, to a 3-year, $47.4 million deal, guys. And, of course, that's going to sting the Knicks, but I'll tell you how the Knicks have recovered in that regard to some small extent. Also, guys, remember the pinky injury that Mitchell Robinson suffered? Well, he wrote about it on social media, and I want to read to you what was said in that social media post. I found it, guys. So, here's what he wrote. I would like to address the concerns regarding my finger, which was actually my knuckle. To provide some context, I have been dealing with personal issues, relationship problems, and internal struggles, which affected my performance on the basketball court. In this league, I simply followed the instructions given to me. Y'all have seen videos of everything I'm very capable of doing. Moving forward to the Eastern Conference Finals, after our victory in Cleveland, everything seemed to be going well. We were celebrating our achievement, but for me, things took a turn for the worse. Upon returning to New York, I received an unexpected call, and my family members contacted me, informing me that my younger brother had been involved in a car accident. I did not see the messages until I arrived home late that night. As the eldest sibling, I felt a deep sense of concern, and I immediately went into panic mode. I began returning calls and texts, and when I FaceTimed my brother, I thought he was deceased. He was wearing a neck brace, unresponsive, and not speaking. I broke down in tears, feeling like a failure for not being able to protect my siblings. Being 910 miles away, I felt helpless. In a moment of frustration, I banged my hand on my truck. As many of you know, I have a deep affection for my trucks, but my siblings and daughter are my top priority. Before judging someone, it is essential to understand their circumstance, which may not be publicly known. Life is unpredictable, and it is how we respond to challenges that truly matters. After consulting with doctors, I was able to gain the confidence in myself to go in and get my job done. And we did. 2026 NBA champs. So at the end of the day, I battled with so much throughout this season. Huge sacrifice not to see my daughter as much this season because I needed to focus and lock in so she can have a better future than I did. So that is what he wrote in that regard. So, as you listen to, he was going through some stuff. And, you know, these things happen. The fact that he was able to still get out there and get the job done is really a testament to him. So, hats off to Mitch for dealing with what he had to deal with. And that's the thing, too, guys, that I think we really need to take a step back and realize. Sure, they're basketball players and all of that, but they deal with stuff as you and I deal with. Some will say, oh, but he's got the money in his bank account. I'm like, yeah, but money didn't cure what happened to his brother there, did it? So you got to look at things kind of even keel. So for him to come out and share this, I applaud him. So I hope his brother's doing better, and I hope he's gotten the help he needs as far as that goes moving forward. So Mitchell Robinson, a Boston Celtic, unfortunately. I'm saying this as a Knicks fan. So there you go. Mike Conley. He leaves Minnesota and takes a one-year deal with the Celtics for $3.8 million. And oh, by the way, this is Mike Conley's 20th season in the league. So Mike Conley, the elder statesman, that he will be with the Boston Celtics. And then Neemias Queta, last season their center, they have rewarded him for what he accomplished and gave him a 4-year extension starting in 2026-27. And the total of that 4-year deal, $56 million. So they reward him handsomely for what he has accomplished. So kudos to him in that regard. And then Ron Harper Jr., they give him a contract, guys, 3 years at $9 million. He was a vital piece coming off the bench for the Boston Celtics, of course, coming in as a young player. So kind of rounding into shape a bit. Still more growth to be had, but they feel he's a part of that future over there. So kudos to Ron Harper Jr. And then remember, of course, them getting Paul George in the trade, who, by the way, he has waived his trade kicker and the money he's supposed to get. And then also they're kicking around the idea of acquiring a Trey Murphy III. But my whole thing is they want to do it with draft capital they got in the Jaylen Brown deal. But I don't think that's going to be enough, to be honest with you. And who's to say that the New Orleans Pelicans want to deal him? So I don't know where they're getting that from. And then, of course, they have Jason Tatum in the fold. Now, remember, he was out the last couple of games in that first round, thus them relinquishing that 3-1 lead in that series. But Jason Tatum, all of 28 years old. I believe he turns 29 prior to the season. He still has 4 years left on his deal at nearly $260 million. So you got to pay this guy still, and hopefully he's recovered as far as the ACL, as far as the other injuries as well. So they're hanging their hat on Jason Tatum to have a healthy season next season. So we'll see what happens there. Then you have a Derek White that's still in the fold, Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser. So Joe Mazzulla, you got your coach of the year for overachieving last season. This season, we'll see what you can do there. You got players there, some long in the tooth, some with injury history, like a Paul George, like a Mitchell Robinson, actually. So everything has to fall right for Boston. Will it? We'll see what happens. So that is the Boston story. Oh, and as far as Boston Celtics and their draft night, got a couple of guys. Chris Senick Jr., who I spoke about before. He has a nice combination of size, strength, and athleticism. A young big with untapped potential. Perhaps he can make his way as far as being a help to this team. And then Dylan Mitchell, a rough and rugged guy, a guy who finishes around the rim, kind of like a Bull Outlaw, like I said. So there you go. The Brooklyn Nets, they did add some free agents. Keon Ellis, they gave him a 2-year deal at $18 million. Last we saw him, he was with the Milwaukee Bucks. He's a 3-and-D guy. He's a pretty good defender. A wing guy, so more guard than anything else. So they add him to the fold. And then Mo Wagner, they add from the Orlando Magic. He was longtime Orlando Magic over there with his brother Franz. He separates from his brother now. Now he's with the Brooklyn Nets. 2 years, $19 million. So he'll be there, possibly competing for that starting job at the 5. Day'Ron Sharpe, another big for them, 2 years, $20 million. So it'll probably be a training camp battle between Sharpe and Wagner as far as getting that starting job with the Nets. And then Josh Minott getting a 2-year, $9 million deal, and he's a guard as well, guys. And then remember, they made the trade for Julius Randle. Right now, you have a front court of Julius Randle and Michael Porter Jr. Seems like they're keeping them both. So you got 2 guys there that can fill it up as far as scoring goes. Which Julius Randle will you get? Will you get the early Knick version of him where he was the all-star player? Or will you get the Minnesota version of him where he was up and down, kind of injury-riddled as well? And then remember last year's rookie Igor Dimin. You have him as well. Noel Clowney, young forward for them. Terrence Mann as well, a guard who's been around the block. We're going to have to see this team elevate now. You got added pieces over there. So we got to see this team competitive. And remember, guys, in the draft, they got Mikael Brown Jr. A lot of people wanted them to get Darius Acuff Jr., but that wasn't to be. So they end up with Mikael Brown Jr. Also, Joshua Jefferson, they got in the draft. A forward, kind of a playmaker from the forward position. And then Tyler Bullado. But the Nets, loading up, getting ready, and getting busy. Let us continue. the Charlotte Hornets. Now, the Charlotte Hornets, remember, they traded out LaMelo Ball and they traded out Miles Bridges, kind of setting the stage for Brandon Miller and Con Knipple to be the face of the franchise, if you will. They re-signed North Carolina native Coby White to a 3-year deal, $74 million. And remember, he can play on and off the ball. Coby White can. And then also, too, from those trades you made, you got in return a Naz Reid, who looks like he's going to get his chance at a starting position. Also, a Grayson Allen you received, a Royce O'Neale. So you have guys that can launch it from 3. Royce O'Neale, a very good defender. And Grayson Allen, a 3-and-D guy also. You're now molding the team in the image of Miller and Knipple and adding pieces around them. And then remember, in the draft, they got themselves a big. They got themselves a legit big in Hans Steinbach, who, like I said, reminds you of a Domantas Sabonis. So if he could come in there and be productive, that's good. Christian Anderson, a small guard, also with German roots like Steinbach, reminds you of a Jalen Brunson type. So Charlotte, future's looking bright over there. So let's see what Charles Lee, who I thought did a very good job, all things considered. So can they take that next step and possibly taste the playoffs? We'll see. Because remember, they made the play-in, but did not necessarily go far. So there you go there. The Chicago Bulls, they were busy. They got themselves one of the crown jewels of free agency, Norman Powell. Stole him away from the Miami Heat. So Chicago swoops in and get him. 2 years, $45 million. I thought this was a steal, to be honest with you, because coming into this, I thought he was going to make more money than that. But this is a nice price to get him at for the Chicago Bulls. And then also they re-signed Zach Collins, stretch 5, if you will. They gave him a 2-year extension at $17 million. And then remember, guys, they have folks in the fold. Oh, and I forgot, as far as Charlotte goes, Dorian Finney-Smith they got from Houston. So you got another guy that's a kind of a 3-and-D guy. But Matas Baselis with the Chicago Bulls, the forward there, the young forward. Josh Giddey, their point guard. Nick Claxton, remember they got him in the trade. It was a 3-team deal. So they have a legit center now. And Nick Claxton, like I said, he gets a fresh start here with Chicago. So I think this could do wonders for him. And then remember, too, in the draft, they drafted Khalid Wilson, who has a lot of promise, guys. Quick, lean, power forward, one of the most gifted athletes in the draft. So you have him there. Day'ron Smith, kind of your jack of all trades there, is a wing player who can kind of do it all. So Chicago in a nice position here. Small moves, but moves that could prove to be significant. And then the biggest move of all, getting yourself a coach in Tiago Splitter, who I thought did an excellent job with Portland. So he has an opportunity here with Chicago, and let's see what he's able to do. All right, let us continue on. The Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, James Harden for reasons that he can only explain, he opts out of his deal at $42.3 million, thinking he's going to get this big long-term deal. Now, remember, guys, James Harden has got some years on him. He's got some miles on him. So bear that in mind. And then also, this came out right around the time of the finals. He was charged with a gun charge, guys. And I believe that was in Houston, if I'm not mistaken, for unlawfully carrying a firearm. So you have that. The Cleveland front office says they're aware of it. They're aware of the situation and all that kind of stuff. He opts out, guys. So he's out there, a free agent. So let's see. Again, like I said, the money's drying up, man. So I don't know where he's expecting to get this haul from. And then also, Thomas Bryant, he's coming back on a 1-year, $3.2 million deal. He can back up Jarrett Allen if need be. And of course, the big question for them is LeBron coming back home again. Remember, LeBron told the Lakers, yeah, I'm leaving that situation. I'm going anew. So for all intents and purposes, it seems like Cleveland would be the perfect place for him to go out and ride off into the sunset. We're still waiting to hear. As of this moment right now, he's weighing his options. But remember, this is a team with Donovan Mitchell. You have Evan Mobley. You have Jarrett Allen as well. You got some young players over there as well that's contributing. And then in terms of your draft, you got a player here that could help them out. Malik Thomas out of Arkansas, combo guard. I like Donovan Mitchell, who's I'm sure he'll be behind. Opportunity for this young man to learn from Donovan Mitchell. So great opportunity for him. So we will see how that goes. But Kenny Atkinson, you are on the clock big time. I understand. I get it. You got to the conference finals. You got swept out of it, but you got there. So, of course, expectations are high in Cleveland. So, we'll see what happens there. All right, guys. So, let us continue on. The Detroit Pistons. Now, this is a team who surprised everyone, was on top of the East. In terms of their player movement, they did resign Kevin Huerter to a 3-year, $27 million deal. They were able to snag John Collins from the Los Angeles Clippers. Got him at 3 years, $51 million. So that's actually a decent deal for him. I thought he was miscast over there with the Clippers. It seemed like Ty Lue didn't know what to do with him. I think this is a situation now. He's coming back to the East, so I think he has a chance here. Playing off of Cade Cunningham, I think will do wonders for him and opening things up for him. So I think we get to see a different John Collins here. And then Javonte Green, he resigns on a 1-year, $3.9 million deal. And then they did trade for Isaiah Joe, the valuable reserve player for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now he comes here giving them instant offense. I would think coming off the bench, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see lineups with him and Cade out there. So will he start? I'm not 100% sure. We'll see. Because you still have Cade, you still have a Duncan Robinson, a Karis LeVert, who's more of a player coming off your bench now. All-star Thompson, who, oh, by the way, they have a team option on him that they need to exercise. I think they're waiting for this Jalen Duren situation before they get him to sign on the dotted line. Also, Ron Holland as well. Now, as far as Jalen Duren, he had the breakout season, so he wants a rookie max. They're not willing to give him rookie max. I think that's based off of what he did in the playoffs. So they're now at this impasse, and he was actually out there talking with other teams like the Lakers, but I think the Lakers are off the table now. Now they've got Walker Kessler, so I think they're off the table. Sacramento, I don't understand unless you're doing a swap of him for Sabonis. Yeah, so I'm not sure what's happening with that, but it seems like they're willing to do a sign and trade at this point. So will cooler heads prevail in this impasse? We'll see, but right now they're butting heads, so we'll see what happens with that. But JB Bickerstaff did a heck of a job last season. I thought he was worthy of Coach of the Year. If not him, Mitch Johnson, but that did come to fruition. So Detroit, looking to add on and maintain their top spot in the East. Can they still do that? We'll see. And then we'll talk about the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers only had one free agent signing, and that was for Kelly Oubre Jr., 2 years, $17 million. I thought this was a very good signing for them to add a wing player like him at this kind of price. You definitely take that. And you add him to what you already have, and hopefully a healthy Tyrese Halliburton there. Hopefully he's over the knee woes and he'll be good to go come training camp in the preseason and the season ahead. Pascal Siakam, who I thought played very well while Tyrese was absent. Because Zubac, you get a full training camp with him, so you get to incorporate him into what they're doing. Andrew Nembhard, who I thought had his ups and downs, but started to come on later in the season. Aaron Nesmith, Obi Toppin, TJ McConnell. So you have all your guys there pretty much. And to me, Kelly Oubre kind of replaces what you lost in a Ben Mathurin. Maybe not the scoring per se, but a jack of all trades Kelly Oubre is. And then remember, too, as far as their draft goes, they did get a Braden Smith, small point guard, floor general. I'm not sure where he fits in the equation there, so we'll see what happens there. But Rick Carlisle, he had kind of the gap year, if you will. Now he's got to get his team in gear and get them back into the playoff mix. The Miami Heat, of course, they made the big move of the summer, getting Giannis Antetokounmpo and also bringing with him Bobby Portis. So that was major for them. Also, guys, it looks like Andrew Wiggins will be there. He opted in to his $30.1 million deal. Add to that 2 more years they gave him. So 2 years at $34 million. So basically 3 years at $54 million. So Aaron Wiggins locked in as your small forward for the Miami Heat. So you have a front line of Wiggins, Giannis, and Bam Adebayo. So very nice starting front court there. Also, guys, in free agency, they added Tim Hardaway Jr., who we last saw with Denver, signed him to a 1 year, $6 million deal. And then he was inquiring about wearing his father's number. Of course, his father said, nah, that ain't happening. He's going to have to look elsewhere to get the number that he wants. And then on top of all of that, you have the LeBron rumblings about him possibly going back to Miami. I understand. I get it. He's been there. He knows what the situation is there. I don't see it, to be honest with you. I don't see him returning back to Miami based on how it kind of ended with the whole cookie gate sort of deal there. So I hear you when he lists Miami as a possibility. I don't know if I take that as somewhere he's wanting to go back to. I'm just saying. So, like I said, you have Bam there as well. Also, guys, Simone Fontecchio, he's returning, guys, on a 1-year deal. Looks like $2.6 million. Yeah. It can't be 21 points. But yeah, so Simone Fontecchio returning back for the Miami Heat. He's a guy who can launch it from deep, so there you go in that regard. But I just want to make sure. Let's look at the Miami Heat. Yeah, $2.6 million is what Simone Fontecchio's getting from the Miami Heat. So there you go. So like I said, Bam Adebayo is there. Nikola Jovic, he's there as well. Davion Mitchell will probably be the point guard as of now, unless something major happens and a door opens for them to bring a veteran in. Pelle Larsson, who they need to lock up, they got a team option on him, but he's a young, promising player. They probably need to lock him up long term. So Eric Spoelstra, the pressure's on you now. I mean, I understand he's the longest tenured coach in the league right now, but now that you have a Giannis there, you're going to have to figure some things out. All right, let us continue on. The Milwaukee Bucks, the team that Giannis left, they kept one of their own guys, Ousmane Dieng. They signed him to a 3-year, $17.5 million deal. I think this is a very good price. The kid started to come on late in the season, so if he can produce like he produced, then I think you're getting him for a song here. And then remember, guys, the bodies they acquired in the Giannis trade: Tyler Herro, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Kel'el Ware, the promising big, and Kasparas Jacosunias. And then coming back to the fold, a Kyle Kuzma, Miles Turner, who did a snitch job on Breonna Stewart's podcast, but I digress. Ryan Rollins as well. In the draft, you bring, I forgot to mention Miami's player from the draft. Ryan Conwell, a guard coming out of Louisville, reminds you of a Donovan Mitchell, a 3-level scorer, which Miami will need. But in terms of the Bucks, they get Braden Burries, a guard out of Arizona, and then Nate Amitz, the freshman out of Tennessee, who reminds you of a Giannis, coming in lanky, probably needs to bulk up, but he's a leader who, well, he has top 10 upside. That's what Amet has if he's able to develop and add more bulk. So There you go there. All right, that's the Milwaukee story. Let us continue. And then remember, too, guys, with Milwaukee, they have a new coach in Taylor Jenkins, who we last saw coaching the Memphis Grizzlies when they had those big three over there, Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Desmond Bane. And they did a lot of winning over there, guys, until everything imploded. So there you go. The New York Knicks. See that? 2026 NBA champions. That's my guys. When free agency started, they started to secure their own guys. They secure Mohamed Diawara to a 3-year, $10.4 million. That is of extreme importance because this is a guy who showed you promise last season when in flashes when he got the opportunity. He's a guy that they want to develop. So I thought this was a brilliant move coming out the gate. And then next you have Jose Alvarado, who opted out of his player option of $4.5 million, but the team rewards him, giving him a 3-year, $14.8 million. So Jose Alvarado, Brooklyn native, wanted to stay home, stay local, and he's done that. 3 years, $14.8 million. So kind of a steal there. Remember now, guys, he'll have a full training camp with this team, so you get to see what he can do. And then Landry Shamet came in on the training camp contract, guys. The Knicks handsomely reward him as well for all that he did, guys, coming off the bench, being that spark plug. 4 years, $24 million. So you secured 3 of your guys that was here who were free agents. And then you bring in a Andre Drummond to replace Mitchell Robinson. Now, Andre Drummond, remember, guys, he's one heck of a rebounder, so you don't lose that. Is he the defender that Mitchell Robinson is? Probably not at this point in his career, but he's a body there that you'll probably need, especially if Karl-Anthony Towns gets into those foul woes. It seems like it was coming back to haunt him later on in the finals, although they were ticky-tack fouls, I got to admit. So you now have a guy. They're looking for a third center, guys. They're weighing their options. They're seeing if Jonas Valanciunas get bought out by the Denver Nuggets, which is a possibility. And then Kevon Looney, he's now a free agent that's out there as well. So the Knicks want to be able to shore up that center position. So if you're able to bring in one of these guys on the cheap, you do it. And then, of course, they bring back their entire starting lineup: Brunson, Cat, OG, Mikal Bridges, and Hart. Also, guys, Deuce McBride and Tyler Kolek under contract as well. Pacome Didiot still has the team option there. I think they're holding out a bit until they get this center situation straightened out before they make a move on that. And then as far as the draft goes, they chose the young player Jack Collier, guard out of Germany, and then Tyler Nickel out of Vanderbilt, a wing guy with consistent three-point ability. These guys don't grow on trees, so you have that kind of guy in the fold. But Mike Brown has done an excellent job thus far, and this team, even in winning a championship, they still have room to grow. So I'm pleasantly pleased with what I've seen so far from my Knicks. Let us move on. The Orlando Magic. Now, they made a couple of moves. They're bringing back Nikola Vucevic on a 1 year, $3.9 million deal. He kind of flamed out when he went to Boston, ended up coming off your bench. That's how bad things got over there. But he gets a real opportunity here. Will he be a starter? Will he continue to give you production off the bench? We'll see. And then Jonathan Isaac, they restructured his contract. Now he has a 1 year, $11.5 million deal. So he restructures his deal to kind of give them flexibility. In terms of players coming back, Paolo Banchero, of course. Franz Wagner, you need a healthy campaign from him. Desmond Bane, who I thought played well for them. Jalen Suggs, he's the floor general. He's kind of up and down. If you ask me, he deals with health issues a lot as well. So you need him healthy. Wendell Carter Jr., who I thought played very well in the playoffs for the Orlando Magic. And then remember, you have a new coach now, and Sean Sweeney. He was an assistant coach with the San Antonio Spurs. Now he gets his head coaching opportunity here with Orlando. And then in the draft for them, they did get Isaiah Nelson, a post player out of Southern Florida, a guy who can go in there and bang, very good athleticism, a guy who could end up making the rotation if all goes well. So let us move on. Philadelphia, as we know, the Jaylen Brown trade that was made. I didn't really get into the aspects of what this will do for the 76ers, but I'm of the mindset of how is this all going to work? We know how good Jaylen Brown is. Is he coming there to be the 1A? Because remember, he's always wanted to be the 1A. You already have a Joel Embiid there who commands a lot when he's in the lineup. A Tyrese Maxey who's been an all-star these past few seasons. Will he take a step back with Jaylen Brown coming in? And then there's the rookie from last season, VJ Edgecombe. Now you kind of hinders his development by bringing a Jaylen Brown in. So I understand people look at it on paper and say, wow, but how do you make it all work? That's my question. So I don't think it's all cut and dry, although you have a coach in Nick Nurse when he has talent being able to maximize that. But on paper, it looks nice, but you got to get out there and do it. And remember, too, Embiid's health. If you don't have a healthy Embiid, you don't have a shot at going where you need to go in terms of the playoffs. But they did add in free agency Anthony Simons, who we last saw in Chicago. He was dealt at the trade deadline, guys, from Boston. They give him a 2-year, $12.3 million deal, so he'll probably replace a Jarrett McCain, who you dealt to the Oklahoma City Thunder, so he could give you that kind of production off your bench. And then Dean Wade, who you got from the Cleveland Cavaliers, you signed him in free agency, 4 years, $39 million. So you have a wing player with 3-point ability there. So will he be the person to replace Paul George in your lineup? Seems like it. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, Nick Nurse, you got to figure that thing out. All right, so let us continue on. The Toronto Raptors, they were busy when it came to free agency. Re-signing Trace Jackson Davis, who opted in on his $2.4 million deal. So that gives you a big coming off your bench, more than likely playing the 4 or the 5. Elijah Martin, a guard, 2 years, $4.8 million. Kyle Anderson you bring in at 1 year, $3.9 million. We last saw him with Minnesota. And then Jakob Poeltl, he opted in on his $19.5 million deal, but in all totality, it becomes a 4-year deal at $104 million. Now, Toronto is rolling the dice here. He had a up and down season as far as health goes. They're banking on his health being at its optimum. And then remember, too, you're bringing Kawhi Leonard back, who will be playing on the last year of his deal, but he's currently working on getting an extension from the Raptors. In fact, he hired a new agent in Harrison Gaines. So now he has a new agent that's going to be dotting the I's and crossing the T's as far as his new extension goes with the Toronto Raptors. And then they'll be joining Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, who wasn't healthy down the stretch or in the playoffs. So we get to see how things are with him healthy, hopefully. And then you had the promising rookie, Colin Murray Boyles, who I thought played well, especially down the stretch. You equipped Darko Rajakovic with a new contract extension. So obviously they like the promise that they saw in the team, them finishing as the 5th seed. So kudos there. And then as far as the draft goes, you do get yourself a few players there, and Alan Graves, a forward out of Santa Clara, adding yourself another wing. You already had a wing problem, so you add to that. But he's a wing with point guard skills. In fact, he reminds you of a guy who you just signed, Kyle Anderson. So he gets to learn from a veteran like Anderson does Alan Graves. And then Jalen Bradley, a combo guard that you got late in the 2nd round. So Toronto, things are looking up for them. If you get a healthy Kawhi, who knows what can happen up there in Canada with that team. And then lastly, we'll talk about the Washington Wizards. Remember, Trey opted out of his $49 million deal only to sign a 4-year, $212 million deal. So Trae Young, and that questions are being asked now. Can Trae Young be that guy who can lead you to the promised land? We have yet to see that, but we'll see. Hey, you just armed him with a 4-year deal, so you're hoping that's the case when all is said and done. And then D'Angelo Russell, he opts in on a $5.9 million deal. He could play at both guard positions if need be. Hopefully he's healthy for this campaign coming up. And then Anthony Davis. It's been said, guys, he's not going anywhere. There was noise being made about him probably going to Golden State to join LeBron there. But the Washington front office said, thanks, but no thanks. We're not doing that. So it looks like Anthony Davis is in the fold here. He'll be the 4 with Alex Sarr being the 5. So he won't have to play the center position, guys. That'll be a break for him. And then, as of recent, guys, they did trade for DeAndre Ayton from the Los Angeles Lakers, guys. They had to give up Jaden Hardy and 2 second-rounders, one for 2031, the other for 2032. So you do get DeAndre Ayton in there as the backup center. So make no mistake about it. He's backing up Alex Sarr in case something were to happen to Sarr. Also, you still have guys like Bilal Coulibaly, Bub Carrington, Trey Johnson. So some young players there the Washington Wizards. Maybe their arrow is finally going up with all the talent you amassed. We'll see. And then, of course, the crown jewel of the draft, AJ Devonta, who's your 3-level scorer, a absolute scoring machine, who will be your 3, obviously, with Anthony Davis, your 4, Alex Sarr, your 5. So a nice, promising starting lineup. But again, everything hinges on Anthony Davis's health. So there you go there. And then Felix Okpara, who is a center out of Tennessee. So someone you can bring along and develop as well for Brian Keefe and that staff over there. Who, oh, by the way, they added Patrick Ewing as a assistant coach. So Patrick Ewing was here as an ambassador for the Knicks. Now he goes back into the coaching field. So all the best to Patrick Ewing as he embarks on his coaching career in the NBA. All right, guys, thank you for listening. As always, All Things Basketball with GD.com is the website. There you find my clips, my full episodes. Also, my YouTube channel, that's there and available. Also with clips and full episodes. Podcast platforms, I'm on every one of them. Apple, Spotify, the whole works. Also, guys, in terms of being a supporter of this show, on my website, there's 3 buttons there. PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, Spotify, Donate. And in the scroll, Cash App, $GD, that's Sports Dude. Again, Cash App is $GD, that's Sports Dude. Also, write to the show, guys. All Things Basketball GD at Outlook.com. There you write whatever's on your mind, write to the show. And then in terms of social media, TikTok, Instagram, some Blue Sky, some Facebook. And that's pretty much it. Guys, when you hear from me again, I'll be breaking down the West, all the moves made in the West in terms of free agency. Guys, I thank you for listening. As always, we'll talk soon. Take care.